I think there just needs to be some common sense from someone who understands the sport.
All right, we're here in the Salzburger Hof. Thanks to Boa for hooking us up with this amazing space to record over the week of the Leogang World Cup. You should definitely check out Boa and get dialed in across shoes, helmets and various other products from some of the top brands. But we're here for the Loudenvielle post-race show. Neko, first off, welcome. It's been a bit of a travel getting here, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty tight turnaround. We race Sunday in Loudenvielle and then Saturday here, so one less day in between. It's a pretty long drive too, so we should be doing setup today, but my team and along with a lot of others, the big trucks have been stuck in some traffic jams, so if you legally follow the driving laws, it's tough to get here in that time. So we're going to be setting up late tonight and getting ready for track walk tomorrow.
And a lot of the athletes have been stuck as well. Those that have flown, flights have been cancelled, limited number of flights, I think, from Toulouse across to Munich. So
yeah, we thought we were doing the right thing for the athletes. We booked a flight for them direct from Toulouse to Munich on Monday night. That way they could chill Monday, 1 hour flight, easy here. But Asa was on that flight and it's been delayed. So now he's spent a night at a hotel near the airport, and yeah, it probably would have been better to drive. But he said almost every other rider was on the same flight too.
Yeah,
so
I think a lot of people.
The whole World Cup was delayed.
Yeah, Ollie, at this point, are you glad to have a slightly smaller pit setup than some people?
We'll keep the two smaller vans for that journey only. Yeah, it was a little bit easier for us for sure. We didn't have to leave quite as quickly. Everyone was packing down. I think we were meant to not pack down until 4 o'clock, but everyone was kind of done by about 4:30 and big trucks on the road. So yeah, bit of carnage.
Yeah, but a much warmer week in Loudenvielle, Neko. I guess that was well received. But then we like to complain, don't we, as humans, right? So I think people were finding it too hot this time.
Yeah, mountain bikers will complain about anything. They'll find something. But it was just the contrast between Poland being so cold and then this one being quite warm. Pretty average, actually. It was a nice temperature. It was a beautiful place. It was actually so nice to be there.
I've only seen it in the rain.
Yeah, it was complete opposite.
Yeah, good stuff. Ollie, it's we had Polegate at the last round. Has there been any further clarification from the organisation on like the pole system and how that's working, or are we assuming everyone's on board?
I think they've changed. They're just trying to change slightly so they don't have the problem.
Okay.
I've heard nothing in terms of like changing how like we actually like manage it and referee it, as we were saying the other day. But so they've just trying to make sure that they put poles in certain places. I saw some communication last week around the communication of them. So they were like, this is a B line, this is an A line, or this is where the pole is. Or I think there was at one point a pole got moved slightly to make it more obvious that it was part of the track. So there's a few little things like that to sort of stop it happening. But nothing in terms of the refereeing stuff that I think we spoke about in depth.
I mean, that's a harder problem to solve, I guess, but at least some clarification on things is going to hopefully mean we don't have those sort of ambiguous issues. Neko, talk us through the track a little bit. Like, it's not much changed from the previous year, apart from the weather, right? I think the weather was the biggest change.
Yeah, it was a favorite track for all the riders, so I don't think there was a lot needed to change. The track's really flat in the first two splits. High speed this year, so it probably didn't feel as physical. You didn't need to push the bike as much. The speed was available, so it was rolling fast. And then once you kind of cross over just after that wall jump, you can see, if you're in the valley, you can just see the hill just drop off, and it's one of the steeper tracks that we get to race on. The whole bottom section is a mix of like, it's a natural bike park trail, but they just straight line some of the turns that are too switchbacky. So you've got like a natural kind of fall line into then catching up to a berm at the bottom, which I think races really well. It means the track's high speed. All the riders can push and like they look good on the track. And then it develops to being pretty rough from all the braking, from how fast they're going. So pretty modern track. There's not a lot of lines, actually. Like, we were out there on the track, guys like Olly and I trying to help out our team, and it was fine details. There wasn't major line choices. After really the first session, everything was pretty straightforward. The riders weren't asking me for much. They knew where they wanted to go. And then by the time things started to blow out, they just wanted like some photos of what was going.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I told Aaron, I was like, dude, this was a track that, like, this is your style track, dry, loose, fast as can be.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but it doesn't have enough lines. It's like every section has a nice catch berm at the bottom that you can just smash into, and everybody's on the same line. Like he basically was like, I would be going that fast before, but not everybody else would, because it wouldn't be that straightforward.
Yeah.
You'd have to be creative to hold that much speed.
Yeah.
So he was like, yeah, it's kind of like too straightforward for my liking, and puts everybody on a pretty level playing field, like who's willing to just twist the throttle harder. But exciting to watch. It was
for sure.
Good race to be watching.
Yeah, Ollie, a few people kind of putting it out there that maybe the track was a little bit dangerous. I mean, it's rare to hear riders openly admitting to being a little bit scared of a track. Mm-hmm. Is that a good thing? Or is it a step too far? Like, do you think we should have tried to slow things down a bit out there? There was some pretty bad injuries. Luckily, nothing too horrific. But
yeah, I think firstly, with Loudenvielle, it always gets a bad rap, doesn't it? It's always the track.
Whatever it does, yeah.
It's too hard. It's too easy. It's too fast. It's like we kind of give it a bit of stick, I think. And I mean, it's an incredible venue, and in terms of like for the pits and just the surroundings are incredible. The way the hill, as Neko said, kind of falls away is perfect, because you can kind of have like your two sort of versions of track, you know, your two sort of approaches and even bike setups and stuff for the two. So you kind of, it's actually amazing. And I think this year, it's down to the fact that it just got so fast. And then they're saying, well, what's the potential outcome of that? And I have to say, I was watching some of the riders from the bottom just dropping into that the last chute and a couple of drops and turn, and if they'd have gone straight on there, I don't think they'd have stopped by the time they got to the fans. And there's probably 2 or 3 TVs to go, cameras to go through, plus the manager's area, and I think they'd have carried on going. So so I can see why, especially as a rider, you know, in terms of safety, why there's definitely that. And I, you know, on a personal thing, I was even, this sounds funny, but it feels like without the tape, there's like less security, even though the tape did nothing. It obviously does nothing. That felt like, you know, with the tape that they're kind of locked into it a bit more. But as we're starting to see, and we saw in Loudenvielle, people run out the tape quite easily, don't they? Whether it's blown off at the top by Benoit or Nina as well. So like, you know, it feels like you're not sort of held in like into your Scalextrics track anymore.
It's weird, isn't it? It looked like a little bit like the catch netting is maybe not quite up to scratch. Like, I guess with the weight of a bike, especially when the bike's getting flipped and coming in high on that catch netting, it was like knocking the catch netting out of the way, and then the rider was going over the top rather than it actually catching. So maybe it's hard, right? Like in skiing, you'd have multiple layers of it, but I don't know how that's doable.
Those are, I guess, designed to be put into snow, not dirt, and on like the level of the track. So a lot of them are like below, because the track's on an off camber, and they're mounted into dirt, which is like really hard to mount those things properly. And there should be multiple layers, I guess, in a ski race. So you're kind of like using them in a environment they're not designed for. Whenever I've used them before, they're pretty hard to install for mountain bike. But if you can like mount them with rope to hard points like trees, they're then not like an A net or a B net where they fold over. They're like a catch net.
Yes,
you're not going through it. And these things are like, they're actually designed to slow you down, and then you hit the next one. And in a mountain bike environment, when there is only one layer of them and they're not hard mounted, it's hard to get them to work. I think they're better than nothing, and they
for sure it's going to slow you down,
slow the fall. But it's hard to find a solution for a bike race where it's out in the open on a steep hill and there's no like trees. Like you see like Champrey or something, the whole track is catch nets mounted to trees from side to side.
Yeah.
And if you crash into one, like you can hit it as hard as you want, it's going to hold you. But out there, when they're just the poles that are mounted in the dirt, it's a pretty hard situation.
Yeah, it's tricky. We're trying to take an extreme sport and stop people from getting hurt. Like, it doesn't really fit, but I guess there's work to be done to improve where we can.
We always compare to F1, and if you think about F1 as the speeds went up, there was a certain season many years ago where there was a lot of crashes, and they some of them fatal pretty bad. Whereas nowadays it seems a lot safer, doesn't it, with the run outs or whatever they've done. And I suppose we're going through the same thing, aren't we? The same evolution. We used to go slow, so crashes, there were probably more, but they didn't matter, it's just sort of sliding out or whatever. But now we go in these higher speeds, maybe that's the next bit that needs to kind of catch up a bit, really.
Yeah, for sure. We normally talk about tyre choice on wet races, but it felt like there was a bit of tyre puzzling going on this weekend. Neko, I think Anna had looked at using the Argotile, which is like their kind of intermediate tyre from Continental. Like, what were people doing? There seemed to be a pretty wide spread of choices.
Yeah, there was a pretty big mix. A lot of brands that have an intermediate tire, it seemed to be pretty popular. A mix of those intermediates, whether like for us, it was the Argotile, for Maxxis, like the new High Roller 3. Those were pretty popular to see out there, or just full on dries. Like most of the boys were probably on full dries. Some were on Argotiles. Anna went to that Argotile.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a mix of that. Even some riders on like full muds.
Yeah, I think Cami was on full wet screens, which is, you rarely see that tyre. It's got to get pretty muddy for it. And she made it work pretty well, right?
And it worked well for her. Yeah. I think it's like you have to play to the strategy of what you choose to use. You can't just like ride the same no matter what you have and then blame it. Like you choose your golf club and you swing it to hit where you want to go.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like the setup in that sense. Like you're going to give up things, you're going to gain things, and you have to ride accordingly.
Yeah, fair play. Olly, Q1 still causing issues for a few people, eh? Like it's keeping it interesting.
It's amazing, isn't it? As a fan, you love it. As a team, you either love it or hate it, depending on how your riders are doing. I know I can speak for Joe on my team. He's loving it. He's like, let's go. Like we'll just go racing, and it's actually helping him. Interestingly, now he's actually, because it's obviously part of this unprotected thing, and now he's in a position where he would have been protected. Yeah. I was like, you wish you could swap it around now. Whatever the answer is there. But yeah, it's causing a stir, isn't it? It's really good. I think there's definite advantages, obviously, to having the afternoon off, and that's our big conversation, is let's relax in the afternoon. But I wondered as well, and I still wonder, I don't have the answer to this, but getting another race run, another timed run on a track with pressure it's more practice, isn't it? So it's another, and it's a really important practice run, not just a kind of having a look at lines. It's practicing going fast. So I'd love to see some of the data as the season goes on around how people, if Q2 qualifiers end up almost effectively doing better come the finals kind of thing.
Yeah. We saw Chris Hauser on a heater in Q2 catch up with the rider that had crashed further up the hill, arguably held up a bit towards the bottom of the track. Luckily still got through, didn't need a rerun. What is the protocol for that, Neko? Like as a rider, what are you looking out for?
The protocol from giving him a rerun, or if you're
the rider that's crashed and you're then dropping back into the track?
Right. You just respect as if it was you coming. What would you want them to do? They keep an eye out, listen for the whistles, try to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
I think the issue comes where Wanford might have hit his head pretty hard.
That's what I was starting to think.
And I would guess nobody's going to do that intentionally. They just might not have it all together at that moment. So, it's just a bummer for the rider that gets affected by it.
Yeah. Luckily,
it worked out fine. Like Hauser made it through. He didn't have to do the rerun. He was actually up at the top ready to do the rerun. And they tried to tell him he needed to decide whether he was going to do the rerun or not. And he decided to do it. And then once he was up, by the time he got all the way up there, the race was over and he was still 10th. So he was in, and Trek was arguing like he doesn't need to do the rerun. Of course not. Like he didn't want to be in this position. He was clearly slowed down. He would have only been faster. He didn't start, like obviously once you start the rerun, then you have to take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You can't just choose the best time. But until you start, you should have the option to take it or not. I think there needs to be some discretion there where, like, the guy, if he was affected, he should have the chance to go and qualify. But if he's already in, don't make him choose before he goes up the gondola. Wait till the race, like, as long as there is time, if he's in, like they did, but it was a bit of an argument to make that happen. I understood.
This is all stuff just bedding in, right? Like we've changed the process, the qualifying process, and as much as you can, you write the rules, I guess, based around what you think might happen, and then things happen. You're like, okay.
I think there just needs to be some common sense from someone who understands the sport. Like, obviously you don't want there to be gray area, but like if the commissaire is just looking at the rule book on this, it might be hard to make the call.
Yeah.
But if he's like, look, this is what happened to the guy, we got to give him the equal of a chance as anybody else that he's racing against, then I think the decision should be pretty obvious. Most people would agree, but it's tough when then somebody can just want to play the rule book.
Yeah, it needs a bit of a sensible head looking at it.
Did you see Juanfer's crash out of interest?
Did I see Juanfer's crash? No, I don't think I did, but I heard it was pretty extreme.
I don't know how. He had like a cut on his ankle and that was it. I don't know how he walked away. It was insane. But
fair play. Is he all right?
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah. He felt terrible. He's like the nicest person in the world.
Yeah.
If anybody knows him, they'll agree with me on that. And yeah, he felt terrible about that situation. But at least Chris got through. Like, the outcome was fine.
And you're just out of sorts, right? If you've had a massive crash and you're like, right, I just need to get off this hill. Yeah. You're not really there, are you? Sometimes.
Completely, yeah.
Fair play. I wanted to shout out Chris Hauser actually, because he's on the Trek Factory program, but not on the factory team, as I understand it. I think he's on the older version of the bike, and outperformed the three guys on the team who unfortunately didn't make it through. I'm sure they're going to be hungry here in Leogang. But yeah, fair play, Chris Hauser. It's good to see him doing that. Ronan Dunn was a high profile rider, Olly, that came unstuck on a mechanical in both Q1 and Q2. I think broken wheels or punctures leading to broken wheels. Like, he's going to be fired up here, so watch out, Hillside. It's going to be interesting to see him tear that apart. But this is the downside of the lack of protection, I guess. We don't get to see a Ronan Dunn run on race day, but I think it's a pretty good system on the whole.
Oh, completely. And he was probably the favourite to win Q2, so like he still had a second opportunity, didn't he? Even though he wasn't protected, he still had a chance. And I mean, very unlucky. I only saw the Q2 puncture, but I hear it was on exactly the same rock or section kind of thing. So yeah, he knew what he'd hit, and he was just very unlucky to hit exactly the same rock at exactly the same time and not get through. So yeah, you miss people like him, and going back to saying you miss people like Trek, but this, I think we used to use the term, this is the new normal, but I think this is kind of the new norm. We're going to be missing riders in the finals. So we kind of got to get used to it and enjoy watching the qualifying racing, because it's as exciting, if not more exciting than the final.
It's super good to watch. Let's talk about a few other bits and pieces from qualifying that we might not pick up later on. First one, Neko, it was a little bit of a tougher ask for the Enduro riders crossing over this weekend. I think like all of them went pretty well in Poland, not quite so well in Loudenvielle. Do you think that's based on the track and the difference in kind of speed and level of things going on?
It could be. It could just be a coincidence. Maybe the high speed could be part of it. Like that, this was all the downhill riders were saying how high speed it was from the press go. They're just, the eyes are having to read the track. It's so much faster. So that could be part of it. But I mean, those guys are really good. Maybe they just didn't have a good run. I don't know.
Had a less good weekend. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they stack up this weekend. I want to talk about Toto. A couple of years ago, this guy was on everyone's radars. Like, he was putting down key sector wins, and he's sort of been a little bit off the boil looking from the outside. I don't know what's been going on for him. But that Q2 time was insanely impressive. And then also in his race run, fastest 2 top splits out of anyone. Like, if anyone's going after this 100k belted purse, like Toto's got to be pretty close to being the one that you'd put a bet on.
Do you think that's what is firing him up, Chris?
Maybe. Who knows? But
do you know what? He's like, Tehuto, you put especially on that top stuff, like that pumping and stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen him on a pump track or a BMX track. People have obviously seen him at Crankworks on the pump track racing, and he is insane at that stuff, how he gets the speed out of the bike. So I'm not surprised for 1 second that he was the fastest up there. added to the fact that he's got some good bit of hunger, and I think we'll speak a lot in this podcast about hunger, because it seemed to be that's what won it. We're saying lines probably didn't win it because everyone was kind of on the same line. So next thing is about who really wanted it and who wanted to sort of throw down the gauntlet. And some riders clearly said, I'll be all right, thanks. I want the rest of my season to happen. And others went, okay, let's throw it all in and see what happens.
This is very true. I want to mention Henry Kiefer in 7th. That was an impressive qualification. Wasn't to be on race day. And again, a little bit of hoo-ha around the process there, Neko. Like, he broke the beam. We saw the wand move as he dropped out the gate, and obviously the gear slipped, or the free hub went. Something was going on with the bike. So it seemed to create a lot of confusion. Again, that feels like it should be a pretty simple thing. Like, there's no outside assistance, although maybe that's come out of the rule book, someone was saying. But you've broken the beam, it's your race run. Like, what do you think should have happened there? Someone at the top should have had more clarity on that.
I think as soon as he broke the beam, someone should have told him, you got to go. Your time's started.
Yeah. Because if he'd have done what he did 4 or 5 minutes later, he'd have had a reasonably good finish, right?
Yeah. I don't know if they improved the bike at all, that it couldn't have gone right away. But
yeah, maybe.
I think when the timing person or whoever it was closed the beam for him and let him stay there, then there was some question that he might be getting the rerun or getting a restart. I was blown away by that in the beginning. Like, he crossed the start of the track, you got to go. Like, that was the right call. The outside assistance thing, I wonder if they weren't sure because they told him that he or someone made it out as if he could do a restart, that they weren't going to fully DQ him. They were going to let him, you can take your first start and we'll give you your time at least. They probably should have, for outside assistance. Obviously, it didn't give him any advantage.
No, of course, but
it's not like they did something to help him win.
You've got even if you come last in finals, there's a point or two, right?
I think the thing to look at too is they need to make an example of it, but it's not like they were trying to cheat or trying to do anything. They were trying to get a restart, which if you're going to be offered it, you're going to take it
for sure.
But they were just trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Bit more clarity from the top of the track, I think, on that one.
I think it should have been right away. Whoever was the start official say, nope, you started your run,
you need to go.
You go, or you wait here, but your time's ticking.
Experience. Aaron Gwynn, a good friend of yours, he's back. That was good to see. This guy just knows how to get back up to World Cup pace pretty quick.
He does. He's still got it in there. I watched Loic go through a turn at the top. I was moving places to be where one of the riders asked me to go, and Loic came through one of the faster turns, and I was like, man, I'm glad I'm not riding. That was so fast. And Aaron was the next dude and rode it just as fast as Loic. So that was pretty impressive to see, and I think it's his first race, and he didn't do the prep of all the other riders he's competing against. He's had other stuff to do, and probably bike setup wise as well. So once he gets a couple of races under his belt, he told me he was even changing his suspension between Q1 and Q2, change shock, change spring rate based on how the bike felt. So I think once he gets a couple of races under his belt, he'll be up to speed.
Exciting stuff. And I want to speak on behalf of the fans at this point and say that we had no Vital Raw and no Win TV from Loudenvielle, and from my perspective at least, it was missed. It's a real shame that those guys weren't around. Hopefully we'll see them back at the races, but we missed you. Please come back. All right, let's move on to the results. Junior women, Rosemarie Jensen rightly resting her ankle after a practice crash. Ellie, who was the boss, fastest qualifier, but that was a pretty nasty slam, Olly, eh?
Yeah, it wasn't very good at all. I spoke to her afterwards, and she was naturally really gutted. She is, I would say, one of the most competitive people I've ever met, but she has a lot of fire and want for the game, which is awesome to see. and she was beaten up, but she's fine. She's going to be racing again this week, and I think with even more hunger again. So let's see what happens there.
Yeah, and we've got Aletha, Oscar, Neko kind of trying to find that line between fast and not, and too fast, and came a little bit unstuck, but the speed's clearly there and a lot of hunger, I think, too.
Yeah, she's really fast on the bike, and she's had 2 races with some bad luck so far this year, so I think it'll come around. It's just part of the learning curve, first year junior.
Yeah, we had Bella Birchall from New Zealand on that team high country, stick it up Atherton bikes in 4th place. Matilda Melton in 3rd, Neko, a fellow US rider. What can you tell us about Matilda?
Yeah, that was really good to see. I think she had a decent season as a junior last year, but this year coming in, there was slated to be a lot more competition. You heard all these big names were coming in, these first year junior women, and how competitive the field was going to be. I thought it might be tougher for her this year than it was last year, even with the experience. But obviously, the other riders are having their trials and tribulations. So for her to put it on the podium, super cool and well deserved.
Yeah, definitely. And then we move on to the Austrians, Rosa Zierl in 2nd and Lena Frenner in 1st. Coming into their home race in Leogang, Olly, that's going to be filling them full of confidence. And also great to see Norco take their first win with that team.
Oh, yeah. I saw Greg and he was absolutely ecstatic for, obviously, we'll speak about in a bit, but more than one of the wins. And really, really good for them. They had a quite tough year last year, really, didn't they? I think we even spoke about it quite a bit, how they kind of came in, big hitters, good budget, and it wasn't kind of happening for them. But yeah, this year, especially this week, they did so well. And I think that junior women's is so competitive. I love it. It's such a good category now. Those 2 won, but we've already spoken about 3 or 4 others that could have won it, and
for sure
probably will win other rounds.
Yeah,
so
there's more than a handful of riders that could take the win, I think. Yeah. Super good. All right, let's move on to junior men's. Neko, we'll start with your man Ace of Amet. He went down in his race run. It wasn't to be again for him. He does, however, win the award for sickest finish line manual I've ever seen, I think.
That was pretty cool. I saw the video of that. He was bummed with the way the race went. He actually showed me his GoPro and he thought the top of his run, he'd made a couple mistakes. I think he was probably the only rider all day to jump the wall jump. They didn't show it in the TV, but he sent it and got blown completely sideways in the wind, saved it, got a little bit sketchy, and had a couple other little mistakes up there, but he was 3.7 seconds up at the time, and on the best rider in the race was 2.7 seconds up in junior. And he thought that he needed to make up time at the bottom. So he pushed that turn. He said he came across the bridge and was like, I need to make up time. And then crashed in the first loose turn trying to do that. So it was kind of something to build experience from. But he needed to realize that those little mistakes weren't really costing him anything. I think when he watched the GoPro back, he was like, they weren't really that bad, I guess. I shouldn't have been rushing. But I mean, I'm totally on board with you have to learn yourself. You have to learn the hard way sometimes. That's what junior's for. I just don't like to see him hit the ground. I don't want to see him get banged up. Luckily, it was all good, but that's the biggest thing I want to avoid is my guys hitting the ground.
Yeah, I think that was the fastest top split of the entire weekend for Mesa.
Yeah.
The speed's there, isn't it? It's just
the time counts at the finish line. So.
Yeah. Fair. Well, let's talk about the Aram brothers. Till in 4th, Max in 5th. Both riding incredibly well. Home race for them and a track that you'd think they'd go well, and they did, but just not quite enough.
Yeah, I think it's. I could speak for Max. It almost looked too easy for him, that speed. I know he has that kind of slightly more relaxed and chill kind of approach to him and still fast, but he was definitely riding within himself. And I think he's still sort of a bit patched up from a bit of an injury or something like that anyway. So I can assume maybe it's that. And we speak about maturity and sort of experience. And I have to say that run looked like a very mature run. He wasn't one of those YOLO absolute send kind of riders that we saw, which we'll speak about in the juniors in a minute, or in other categories. He said, okay, I'll put it run down. And that's kind of how you win championships, really, isn't it? Is know when your day is not your day and you can still post a
solid
podium.
Result. Yeah.
So yeah, super impressive.
Impressive from them. Tyler Waite in 3rd is definitely finding his feet, I think.
Yeah, he's a really good rider. When I'm most of my lines chat that I send back to the riders on my team is of Max and Tyler. That's what Asa wants to see. Same vantage point, all three, him, Tyler, and Max compared. And oftentimes, like, Asa will write back, Tyler hit it the best. And he looks really good on the bike. He's a really good rider. I think just building on what he missed last year, he's coming into his own. So it's cool. The junior field is so competitive. Like, the kids would all be well inside the top 20 elite. There's like 4 or 5 of them that normally would be. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I got those results wrong, by the way. Till was 4th, Max 3rd, Tyler 2nd. Apologies to those guys. Olly Clark, Olly was on a good run all weekend, right? Like, he was in a really good space by the looks of things. Unfortunately, he flattered in his race run, but he showed what he's capable of. Yeah.
To be honest, his riding, I think, is improving almost week on week. His speed's obviously there. I think his confidence from last week definitely helped. We've already spoken about how strong he is, but I thought his fluidity as well matched with his strength, which was really important on this track. In terms of how he moved as he was riding, was really, really good this weekend. So yeah, unlucky obviously come finals, but he's put himself in that group. You know, he's said, okay, here we go, Asa, here you go, Max, here you go, guys. I'm
here.
I'm holding on with you guys. So yeah, it's so competitive.
It's so good, isn't it? Let's talk about Bodie Burke, Neko. That's one of the runs of the weekend for sure. That guy was hanging onto that thing and just making it dance down the track. Really cool to watch.
I've thought for a while if he could make it to the finish line, he would win one of these things. He's often the fastest through any one section, but he struggles with holding on to that speed. He definitely rides fully committed. I don't want to say out of control, because he's definitely putting the inputs into the bike, but he's absolutely rapid on track, and he does crash in practice and he misses turns, but he's definitely going for it. And it's cool to see him like put that commitment in and stick to his strategy. And when it paid off with a win.
Impressive. I can't wait to see what he's got next, because that was a hell of a run. I think we saw our first belt failure on broadcast. George Madley's bike, he seemed to lose quite a lot of time, no dust on him, and then when he pedalled in the finish bowl with a pretty high cadence and nothing happened, couldn't see a belt on the bike. So I guess there are some failures out there, and it feels like we're not allowed to talk about that for some reason, but it's a developing technology. I think that's okay, right? Like, it's cool that this thing is being developed and it's being pushed, and that there's money and budget behind it and teams are getting on it. I think it's kind of okay, right? If things break, like chains break.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I feel like it builds more trust when you show the full process, not just our thing has no flaws. Here it's finished. Yeah. Rather like, hey, we're going to go race with it. We've got quite a few riders on it. There's going to be issues. We're going to learn through racing, and we're going to make it better. I don't think it's the actual belt itself. It's just each team's integration of the belt into the bike. That's the challenge. Yeah. So it's a tough thing for Gates too, because it's like their product's probably really strong, but if the bikes aren't perfectly aligned or the tensioners aren't holding it correctly, it's like you blame the belt. Nobody's blaming
because it's new.
Yeah. Nobody's blaming the tensioner that someone else made, or Pinion's part of it. It's like, but I mean, when they came in and offered this purse, they had to accept that all the eyes would be on them. They have to take all the success and all the failures.
Yeah, I have to say, from our experience, it's exactly that. We've been given obviously a gearbox from Pinion, a belt from Gates, and then the bike from Intense, and it's up to us as a race team to put those things together and make them work, along with all of the extra bits like tensioners and plates and mud protection, and so there's a lot that goes into it to make it all happen. So the integration is exactly the thing.
Yeah, it's a recipe, right? Everything needs to be right. So yeah, I'm interested because it's clearly working, right? Like Joe's not hanging about on that bike. We'll talk about that in a bit, but yeah, the bikes are working. We've seen some fast rides for sure. It's coming. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the elite women. And we had quite a few fairly significant crashes in the elite women this weekend, Neko, which not only led to some kind of attrition once we got to finals, but also some big time gaps.
Yeah, watching the race live, it was kind of one after the next in a few of those sections. I think could be the track's pretty physical, breaking down by race time, a long week for the riders too. It was getting really rough by the time the finals came around. So like last practice runs where the track was falling apart, and it just caught a few of the riders out.
And in those sort of conditions, the edge is very fine, right? Like, especially with the track changing, corners getting blown out, like it's easy to step over that limit.
And the speed's available. Like, it's there if you want it.
Yeah.
You have to manage it. So it's easy then to go over the line.
For sure. And then obviously Cami out on what we're told full wet screens, like the deepest mud tire, and set a pretty impressive time early on.
I think it's obviously, as we said earlier, the track's in two halves, isn't it? And the time where you could gain, or looking at it maybe negatively, but realistically is the time where you're going to lose the most, is that sector 3, which is pretty much the steep section. Mm-hmm. So, as it's that strategy thing that Neko said earlier. It's like, well, where do I want to make my most amount of time? Should I lose half a second at the top and then have more confidence in the middle and maybe gain 3, 4, 5 seconds in the middle, or try and balance it all the way around? So yeah, it's totally understandable people did that. And I suppose it just fits with who's more confident in what area.
Yeah, interesting. And then Anna came down and got pretty close to Cami, and judging by the look on her face at the bottom of the track, she looked like she felt she'd cheated death on the way down there. Like, how was she feeling?
She said that one of the jumps at the top, she just got blown in the wind really bad, and she thought that she was going down and luckily managed to save it. So it's tough after that to regather yourself. But I think she got, I wouldn't say lucky, but she got the best possible outcome, saving that crash, while a lot of the other top girls did have issues. So on not her best day, to come away with a 5th, it's pretty darn good. I mean, last year would have been 2 podiums to start the year on the old podium system. So I think she's doing great if a bad day can be 5th.
Yeah, definitely. And Valley Hole, not the starts of the season she would want necessarily. I think she's talked pretty openly about being intimidated by the track in those conditions, but she delivered a pretty solid run come race day. I think, there was work to be done to make that happen. Yeah, definitely. And again, it was one of those, she's again very fast at the top. Her sector up there was holding for a long time and super fast. But again, maybe it was just, it's a choice down the bottom. It's a choice of how much you pull those levers, and it's you decide your speed. And I think the conversation I had most with not just riders on my team, but all teams, was how much I can let go, and how much you dare let go is maybe another way of wording it, isn't it? So yeah, for her, it's a choice, and it's not like she did bad, but it's just used to seeing her at the top, I guess. Yeah, this is it. And we're in her, on her home turf here this week. So she's going to be keen to throw down, I am sure. That'll be good to watch. Tiny Seagrave, Neko, nursing a pretty significant shoulder injury from a heavy crash in first practice on the race day morning. So I think she only did one practice run and then did what she could to kind of get the shoulder moving and strapped and get some pain relief, I guess. 3rd place on a day where you're, damage limitation, considering she's still leading the overall, that could play to be a pretty important day out. Totally. I think she handled that very maturely. It was for sure a tough day when in the blink of an eye it can go from everything's going your way to everything isn't. So I'm sure that was a tough race for her. She looked really good all weekend in practice on the bike, and then I think wherever I was on the race day morning, she rode past pretty slowly, so you could tell something was up. But to put that behind her and put down a podium run, and to say didn't lose many points to probably her biggest rivals for the overall as well, was good. Yeah, definitely. And good to see Miriam found her feet. She's back firing on. That crash looked pretty nasty, to be fair, but hopefully she's okay. But it was a really good run up to that point. Yeah, it was. Yeah, she's looking great, isn't she? And again,
it's one of those tracks where there were a lot of crashes, wasn't it? And it was accepting that. But yeah, great to see her up there, and we're definitely going to see more of her. I think she's going to build, and we're going to struggle to get rid of her at the top spot, I think, as we go later in the season.
The battle's definitely building, but we need to talk about Gracie Hemstreet, Neko. I think we've all seen this coming for a while, right? The talent is clearly there. It's just taken a little while for everything to fall into place, and for processes and whatever, and injuries to get resolved. That run was insane. I mean, to come from 3 seconds back to 3 seconds up at the finish just shows how insanely fast she rode that bottom half of the track.
Yeah, and especially this year, her speed's been looking incredible. Both races she's done, she looked really, really good on the bike. So definitely not surprising to see her up there. We all knew it was coming. But I thought once she was 3 seconds down, it was too much to make up. But then, especially on Valley, right? Like, not even to just make up the 3 seconds, but then to go 3 seconds quicker is hard to believe. Like,
yeah, in modern racing, we wouldn't think that's possible, right? We're used to being like, oh, if you're more than a second off, then it's done.
And look at the first split. It's like the worst part of the track. Like, we're not going to race that stuff very much at all. Take that out of it, it's more similar to a normal track. So for her to think I'm 6 seconds quicker on the meat of the track, that's got to be a lot of confidence going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, first elite Canadian woman to win a World Cup. I think Miranda took a World Champs, but not a World Cup. And then first elite win for the Norco race division. So that team are going to be happy, Ollie.
They're really happy. I'm happy for them, to be fair. Like,
it's nice to see, because they've come in and they put a lot of effort in, and there's a lot of budget behind it and some really good people there. So
exactly,
yeah, they deserve some success.
You kind of need those wins, don't you? You know, whether it's a physical win or just reaching a goal, you need those, especially when that much work's getting put into it from that many people. So yeah, great to see for those guys.
Definitely. Right, elite men. We'll start just outside the top 10 with your man Joe Breeden. What's going on? He's a different man this year, eh?
Sussed it out, hasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think I could speak for the next 2 hours about his run, so I'll try not to. But he did a run that he could have done all afternoon, you know, and he did a run that he could have added a couple of seconds to it. And he, as I think most riders, got to the bottom and had a sense of disappointment at first. And I kept reminding him straight away. I was like, that was a great run.
It's not far off his best World Cup result, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, you know, racers,
you want more.
One more, whatever. But so I just kept reminding him, you know, you got to be proud of that one. Like, and also, I kind of don't want him to bounce from a performance perspective. I want him to build and like get used to being here, and then we can build onto another platform again. If he wins one if he won one last week, or podiums or something, what would happen? Maybe not qualify the week after, kind of thing. Or so. Where he's going is brilliant, you know, and it's great to see. And obviously, there's all the conversation about how much work he has to do for the team and that stuff, which makes it even more impressive. He didn't ride his bike between the last two races. He didn't. At all. He didn't. He went home and worked.
Yeah,
and then just he went to the gym. You know. He stayed fit, but so yeah, it's super impressive and. The confidence is building with him.
That's cool, because he's always said he's got it in him.
Yeah.
But he's just like had so many setbacks over the last few seasons. So it's good to see Joe back, like properly back.
And let's be honest, he's lived in the shadow of Charlie Hutton and Matt Walker, you know, his mates and, you know, people he rides with locally to him. And it's always been them two getting the medals and the championships. And he's just kind of been just behind. And so far this season, he's the one that's casting the shadow. So it's really good.
Good on him. Let's talk about Luke Wayman. Last year in Loudenvielle, he crashed across the finish line. Still a good result, but it was a pretty horrible crash. This year, I believe in his first ever elite final, 10th place.
That's a really good result. He looked good last year racing junior, and to step in and put down a top 10, he's got to take a good shot of confidence to keep making the finals going forward.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how that progresses. Olly Zwar in 9th, Olly again. Really cool to see Olly back. Like, he's had, again, a couple of rough seasons, like lots of potential early on, some niggly injuries that have taken a while for him to get resolved, but up to pace on that new Orbea.
Yeah, no, clearly that bike's working. You know, it looks good from what I can see. I don't know much about it, but it looks good from seeing it trackside. He's kind of like, he just quietly goes about his work, doesn't he? You don't really unless I miss it, I don't really see him shouting about his job too much or any of that stuff. I did actually look earlier on today, and his following isn't huge for a rider of his level. But personally, I quite like that. He's just head down. He's clearly fit. He's clearly strong. And, when he is fit, as in from injuries and injury-free, he's puts down these top 10s. So, yeah, really good.
It's good to see. Another rider that might be on a bit of a build, 15th in Poland and 8th in Loudenvielle, is Antoine Pierron.
Yeah, he looked really comfortable and really good on the bike all weekend. Obviously, he rides with some fast people.
Yeah.
So he's probably knows what it takes. But really nice kid and works hard. He does all the right things, so it's nice to see it paying off for him.
Yeah. Loris Vergier in 7th there. A good ride. Enough fire, enough hunger.
Yeah, it's funny, wasn't it? You kind of expected, I don't know if that's you kind of thought that it was he was going to be right up there, didn't you? And especially, he seemed, I don't actually think he was going to adapt to that bike very well when he moved from Trek. I don't think the bike was going to overly suit him. But obviously they've got new suspension platform and with what looks like a lockout and a sort of semi-lockout. So that, I think that's helped him transition because he's got a bike that then he can still stay light on with him riding in that kind of way. So it clearly works. But yeah, it just seemed like on the day, maybe a bit like Valley, this wasn't quite up for taking that risk, I guess.
Yeah, it was aggressive approaches that won the day in all the categories, I think. So
yeah,
maybe that just wasn't quite where his head was at or what he wanted to put down on that day.
Yeah, and you've got to say, how many aggressive approaches did it take to get a win, if you know what I mean? How many people didn't work for the one that did?
This is very true, yeah.
But it was that approach that won in the end, for sure.
It was. Let's talk about Ryan Pinkerton in 6th, Neko. I think that's his best Elite World Cup result so far. Conditions that I guess suit him. But again, a rider that's just quietly getting the job done and finding his feet this season.
Yeah, he's come into the season really strong. He had his best finish in Poland was 11th, so that was his best elite finish, and then won up it with 6th. So he's on the right trajectory. I think the conditions suited him a lot better. It was what he was used to riding. He's normally better in dry conditions. He's from California where it is dry, and he's a young rider, so he's still gaining experience. But I really like him. He's a really nice kid, and he's got his head firmly on his shoulders. So I think he'll keep improving, and his confidence probably helping him. He's not like a very outwardly confident guy. He's a really nice, humble kid. So I think getting a couple of results on paper will help him, believe that he should be there and he belongs there, and he'll stay there.
He was fast all the way through as well, wasn't he? I think he was fastest in time training, if I remember.
He was near the top at least. I remember seeing his name early on. Yeah.
In fact, I think the first runs he was fastest, so maybe got kicked out a little bit. But yeah, he was. I think that's really impressive, and I love to see that. Like when you're like, all right, let's show my colours early.
Yeah, from the start.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Luke Shaw in 5th, a rider that we would normally expect to excel on the top of a track like that. Not that he wouldn't excel in other sections, but he's very, very good on motorway, generating speed, all of that kind of stuff. Do you think the headwinds and the crosswinds on the day maybe put paid to a little bit of that advantage that some of those riders have?
Yeah, potentially. I can't say I noticed that hugely, if you know what I mean, in terms of them not getting that, because I think his top sector, when he came down, his top sector was showing really good. I haven't analysed against now everyone, at the finish. So his top sector was still very, very solid, and I think he's going to. I mean, him better than me, Neko, but I think he's going to be stoked with that result. He's sort of still in there, holding up when Troy's probably having a bit of a bad week or two. He's kind of holding the fort for Canyon, and I think it was a very good result and a good ride.
I think that's where he trains to be. He wants to be top 5. He sees himself there. And when it comes together and he delivers the run he was looking for and the time was good enough, it's like it's all working. So Luke looks really good right now. He still looks effortless on the bike.
He does.
Like it's hard to tell sometimes how hard he's actually pushing, but I think it just speaks to how much he puts into his prep so that he can operate at such a high speed so calmly.
Yeah. Neko, you got to comment on the run from Nathan Pontvian for 4th place. Man, that boy can ride a bike, mid-race whips, like an insane ability to get through that like really awkward section where they were kind of hopping and like lily padding and then having to immediately move left to get around a pole. Like his ability to just make the bike move through there, like I think better than anyone else on the day, was wild.
Yeah, that was such a cool run to watch. You could tell he was loving it and he was right in his element on that track. Probably some of those sections he came in a bit quicker and like ended up deeper than he was expecting, but he just made it work. He just put the bike where it needed to be, stayed within the track limits, although it was bouncing from one side to the other. And I mean, the result shows he 100% deserves that. He's capable of it. And he put down like an exciting, spectacular run in equal conditions and was fourth at a World Cup. So he's got to be thrilled with that.
Yeah, and I think we're stepping into the hungry part of the field from here on up, right?
We definitely are, yeah. But didn't he made quite a big mistake at the top, didn't he? In that important right hander, the flat right.
Yeah.
He actually, I think he had to dab a foot, and he came out of there slow. And the next point of braking is a long way after that, isn't it? And I was like, run done kind of thing.
And he was still all right on that split as well, to be fair, yeah.
I don't know how it worked, because I was shouting at my riders how important, get that bit good and you've completed the top split. And but also, again, coming back to that resilience thing, he didn't give up. He was like, yeah, fine. It didn't matter that there was a mistake. It mattered what was coming next. And that's what was impressive.
Have the level of commitment he had lower down, with the potential of having that thought in your head that I'm not going to win this, I might as well just stay alive. That's impressive headspace.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was the opposite. Maybe it was like, might as well send it down.
Yeah, maybe.
Got nothing to lose.
Yeah, maybe that's the way his brain works. It's not the way mine works, but fair play. I rate it. Jordan Williams, let's talk about Jordan in third place, 8 weeks back on a downhill bike. It's super impressive. And this is, this hunger, like he wants to show that he's back.
Yeah, it's hunger, but it's also, there's certain comparisons with Bruni. I know they're on the same team, but that kind of ability to just to rebuild, expect yourself in that place, or I know he wasn't expecting it straight away, but, to expect that's where you race. You race in that top group, and to turn up and deliver a run like that in those conditions with that danger, as we've already spoken about, after having a whole year off the bike. I mean, imagine not doing your job, any job, for a whole year, and then coming back and excelling in it to that level. You'd have quite a lot of fear in any job, let alone one that is actually dangerous. So it's really impressive. I think he's got a great head on his shoulders, he's, again, just quietly gets on with it, kind of thing. I think seeing his face on the camera, it looked like he was gutted he didn't win it. It wasn't like,
interesting.
I'm sure he went home and was happy with the result, but he didn't seem too happy when people were the last few were maybe going faster. So yeah, really, really good run.
Yeah, fair play. It was a shame. Again, I think this comes down to the order that riders are going off in, and I think they've compressed the broadcast. I'm pretty sure last year there were longer gaps for the full 30 riders, so we saw more of it. Might be wrong, but we're having 30-second gaps for the first couple of riders, and as a result, we really didn't see very much of Jordan Williams' run at all on the broadcast, and he's third place. Do you think that's something that's okay and just a result of what we're stuck with, or do you think there should be work being done to try and ensure we don't end up there? I mean, it's tricky because you never know who out of that top 30 is going to go well, but.
I mean, we were told that the reason they don't do top 60 and show the top 30 runs was because they want to show everybody's run from top to bottom.
That's what I remember.
In the top 30.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's tough. And it seems like the 30 to 20 get a shortened run, and then the time gaps get bigger after that. They have a lot of riders to fit in through the day. Well, they don't have a lot of riders, but they have a long run time with the riders they have.
Yeah.
So I get the challenge, but if that was what was told was that this is what we're going to get, then it would be nice to see those riders, because it happened to a few riders that were up there that we didn't get to see as much of their run. So I don't know. I totally respect that. It's a really hard thing to do.
For sure. And as a fan, as a mountain biker who likes to complain, I quite like the broadcast length as it is. Like, it feels appropriate. Like last year, some races were like, it's actually quite a long day of sitting in front of a computer watching racing, which is not a bad thing. I love it, but like, it was a long day when you were watching both the junior rounds, the women's rounds, and the men's rounds. This year feels really good in the length of what it takes. But as a result, we're missing riders. So do we go to 20 in the finals? Or I don't know. Like, I don't have an answer, but I'm disappointed not to have seen Jordan's run, because it was obviously pretty special.
Yeah. And I had one idea. I wouldn't have solved that, but you don't want to have any protection, but maybe the top ranked riders still are seated to where they go at the end, to where you don't have like in Poland where Amory was on the hot seat for so long. So yeah, he still has to qualify, but when he does, because he's first in the overall or however many top 5 in the overall, maybe those guys still race towards the end of the race.
Yeah.
Both to keep it exciting and fair for the people racing at the same sort of conditions that are competing for the overall.
Yeah. Well, we'll offload that task to people that get paid more than us to solve. But yeah, it would have been nice to see more of Jordan's run for sure. Let's talk about Amory Pierron then, Ollie. A very good run. I think maybe one mistake it looked like towards that big open right-hander coming in there. He looked like he got a little bit wide and maybe just got kicked by a root or something sticking out. Otherwise, that pretty flawless, good bit of Amory execution and puts him into the leader's jersey.
Yeah, exactly. And he came out the gate like an absolute madman, didn't he? Like, he was the only person who you thought, yeah, you can do that and still be okay at the bottom. You know, everybody else, surely there was a hint of like, I want to make sure I'm good as I'm dropping into the finish area kind of thing. Whereas that clearly does not cross his mind, which is great to see. His pedaling was insane at the top. I've actually watched his GoPro. I think it was on GoPro bike
on the
last
YouTube
night. His GoPro run, and he totally owns the vehicle, doesn't he? You know, there's definitely isn't the other way around. Like, that thing is absolutely pulled apart to get it to the bottom, and yeah, really good run. It was looking like, obviously, Jackson, that nobody was going to touch him, you know, as people coming through, and you're like, oh yeah, no one's anywhere near that. And as he dropped in, it was like he could touch him. And I actually wondered, do you think he was told Jackson's time at the top?
I was going to say, I wonder if he knew that, and I wonder if he knew it was Jackson, and maybe then he knew, like, I need to make up as much time at this top section because I knew Jackson would be losing it there, and then try to just match his lower splits.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe playing somewhat of a strategy. Sometimes the riders don't want to know anything. They just want to do the best run they can. So it's hard to say.
Would you want to know?
I think modern racing, you need to just accept that you need all the information you can get. And when I was racing, I definitely would not have wanted to know. I didn't use any of the tools that are available now. I didn't even use a GoPro. I just walked the trail and then talked about it with my teammate and then raced. But these days there's so many tools and so much information available to the riders that I think they need to be able to take that information without it being like a hindrance to them.
Yeah, you're talking about it like it was 20 years ago, mate. It was only last year.
Well, when I was like really racing competitively, I was riding last year.
Fair play. Right, let's talk about the man Jackson Goldstone. I mean, history tells us he's got work to do up the top, right? We know that from the data. He's a lighter rider. That's going to make life hard. I think they were prepared for that. They had a lot of weight strapped to the bike, from what I could see. And I'm not sure how he was getting on through the weekend, like whether he thought he had it or not. But apparently, I think his mechanic said something to him at the top, and Chris Kilmurray was at the top and also said something to him that just triggered something and fired him up, apparently. Chris also speculated that the wind at the top might have helped just neutralize his disadvantage a little bit, like he's got a lower frontal area into the wind compared to some of the other riders, so maybe that weight trade-off's not as significant. But man, that run, like, that guy, talk about hungry, like he was late for dinner, right?
Yeah, that was insane, wasn't it? Yeah, and to be fair, even I watched the run back afterwards because I watched it and it was impressive, and obviously you saw hunger, and then how much he was up on everybody else when they were going that fast almost confused me. I was kind of like, I was trying to find where he found the time, because again, as we've already said, he wasn't on a different line, or he wasn't doing anything different except for just open those brakes even more.
He destroyed every corner. Like the speed he took out of every corner just seemed incredible. Not that everyone, like you say, not that everyone else was slow, but like he didn't seem to be slow. He said in the chat afterwards he wished he'd put more tire pressure in because he was like rolling tires a bit.
Do you think you've got to he's a modern rider, grown up on these modern tracks, which are, you know, like got these catch berms and all this support and stuff like that, and so this is his more comfort place. Like, it's a track built for a rider that's grown up in this world, whereas maybe some of the other riders who aren't used to just railing turns with that amount of force and speed, maybe not. But I don't know. But yeah, for sure the hunger, but that's definitely something in there.
Yeah, I think the most aggressive run I've seen from Jackson. Like, normally he's quite light, not Loris kind of light touch, but he's like quite poppy, playful, lighter, on the lighter end of the spectrum. That looked aggressive this time.
I think he had something he wanted to prove to himself, probably, and just show what he's got down there. That section had his name on it. Like, that's where he was going to make his mark, and he needed to get all he could get out of that section, and he didn't hold back. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, very
his mechanic said he thought he forgot to turn his GoPro on, so he turned it off on the bridge. But it was on. He actually turned it off.
It's hard enough to turn those things on and off as it is. Like, imagine doing that mid-race run on a run
also,
like that.
He said thinking the whole top split, like, I forgot to turn my GoPro on.
Yeah.
Darn, I forgot to turn my GoPro on. Where will I turn my Gopro on?
Can't you just talk to them these days as well, like GoPro on or something, and they sort themselves out?
Maybe you have to have it set up or something. I don't know.
I heard him as soon as he got to the bottom and kind of bowed to the crowd, he then came straight to his dad, who was standing quite near me, and that was his biggest conversation, was about the GoPro. He was shouting about the GoPro. I was thinking, you should be shouting about the fact you've just done a 3:13, you know?
Yeah. So I guess, like, they want that run, right? Like, GoPro want that run to put on the channel. Yeah. Jackson wants it to share. Like, it's part of the job. So tricky. There must be a way to automate that. Anyway,
he probably knew how hard he was going to hit that section. He's like, I don't want anybody to see this. This is private only.
Yeah, we'll leave them thinking. Yeah, we'll leave them thinking. Impressive. And the first Canadian doubleheader, like, Stevie would be proud, to see that.
Oh yeah, super proud. I mean, they obviously like came up in his legacy, so it's really, really cool to see that come into fruition.
Yeah, very cool day for downhill. So that leaves the standings. So Lena Frenner leads the junior women, Max Aran leads the junior men's, Tane leads elite women from Valley and Gracie, and then Amory leads the elite men from Loic and Jackson. So the season's starting to take shape, but anything can happen. We've got a long year. We've got a lot of points to be won yet. We should do lit kit, so I'll do mine to give you boys time to think. So I'm gonna give Jordan Williams this, and they didn't. I don't know what they're doing with their kits this year, but he had a practice kit that was like this light pink with this weird coloured zebra thing and like dark sleeves and lower legs. Like, it really shouldn't have worked, but it 100% did, and we didn't see enough of it because there was no vital raws. But that I thought was a really, really cool kit. I don't know why they're racing in the red or whatever, but
I think the World Series is trying to show off like the team jersey, like it's part of the presentation and the graphics, which I don't really agree with. I think they should just remove that and let the riders run their gear. But because of that, I think they're, as a team, Specialized is probably trying to allow them to have the freedom in practice, but then race as a unified team.
Got ya.
Trying to conform to the same priorities as the series is, rather than go against it.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Ollie?
I'm going to say Taylor Vernon.
I didn't really see anything of Taylor because we had no raw. But
are we allowed a lit kit that wasn't in the finals, I guess? But yeah. So he was just in like complete, just what, I don't actually know the brand of the kit.
Yeah.
It just totally white, and I just thought it was really cool. And I thought it was cool as well for, you know, him being privateer, and privateers are getting fewer and farther between now. You know, there's definitely not as many as those, and that's only going to go that way over the next few years. And so I think it fit his image in terms of like nice and completely plain, white, which looked good. White's always looks good, and yeah, it was great to see it out there. Great to see him out there as well, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, definitely. Always good to see Taylor on track. Neko, what about you?
I'm gonna go Gwynny. I thought he looked like
That was cool, eh?
It was like military look.
Yeah.
Like I always say, the American hero. He looked like an American war hero.
Is that a Thor kit? Thor?
No, he's running the NF.
Ah, with NF.
gear.
Oh, yeah, nice. Okay.
But I thought it looked so clean and like cool pattern to it, and like just matching with the Red Bull helmet and his style. Like he just looks sick.
It was a close second to Jordan's kit, to be fair. And again, didn't see enough of it, but yeah, super nice. NF do a good job. Awesome. Well, it's been a lot of fun catching up. We're straight back in the thick of it again. Track walk tomorrow in Leogang, and then another week of racing. But thanks for taking some time out from pit setup and all the chaos. Neko, I know you've got a bit of a drive maybe later on to Munich or wherever to pick people up. So thanks for dipping in and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah. Thanks for doing it in person. We don't have to coordinate any microphones or any internet connections. We just sit on this couch and then you'll upload it to the internet. So
happy days.
Even easier.
Thanks,
you,
Chris.
Thanks, Chris. You can come again.
Cheers. Easy. Thank you.
Cheers.